Huh.
Watching Kyle's unboxing videos again?
Yeah, he always finds the coolest... No way! A robot dog? Gotta ask where he got it.
Or use your Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Just draw a circle around the dog on your screen, and it shows you where to buy it right in the app.
Oh, I just learned a new trick. And that for once, I beat Kyle to the next big thing.
Circle it, find it with the new Galaxy S24 Ultra and circle the search with Google. Get yours now at Samsung.com. Internet connection required. Results may vary based on visuals.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
A happy Easter to all our listeners and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion with me, your host, Stephen Wallace. Today our focus is cricket and the recent India versus England Test series. The show's cricketing expert, the former England international Roland Butcher, is back to give us his opinions on why England lost the contest 4-1, Anderson's 700, any positives for the visitors and much more. Hello, Roland. Welcome back to the Paddock and the Pavilion to discuss India versus England and much more in the cricket world. How are you today?
Stephen, great talking to you. I'm fine. Always a pleasure to be on the show and here in Barbados, as usual, bright and sunny, so couldn't be better.
Well, it's cloudy here today in Cambridgeshire, but which is a change from raining. But we're going to start by asking for your initial reaction to the England 4-1 defeat in India.
Yeah, a very interesting series. I think the end result doesn't surprise me because I think really, there's been a shift in the power of the game. No longer really is England seen as the savior of the sport. I mean, there's a new sheriff in town. And India very much are the powerhouses now in cricket, as you can see by their ranking in all forms of the game. So you must understand the shift in world cricket now very much is in India's way. England, I think they tried their best against a formidable opponent, particularly at home. An opponent who also understands that shift in power. They know that they are the sheriff now. England found it very difficult to cope with that. At times, a little bit confused in the way they wanted to play the game. At times, perhaps a little bit arrogant, still thinking that they're the sheriff in town and we can impose a certain type of player against an opponent like India. And at the end of the day, I think 4-1 really was a reflection of the two sides, the difference between the two teams.
Yes, India now have only lost 4 matches out of 51 at home. I think they've won the last 17 home series. Before I ask you a few deeper questions, were they just a better side than England?
Yeah, most definitely. I think they're a better all-round side in all conditions. I think what India can also do now is that, they have proven to the world that they can produce any type of wicket that they want to produce. And they believe that in all of those circumstances that their players can outperform the opposition. So whether it's a turning wicket, they believe they can outperform the opposition both with bat and ball. If the wicket is flat, they can do the same thing. Also, if there is, if there's movement in the wicket for the seam bowlers, they can do that. So, overall, they're proven not just as a team, but as a country that they can produce exactly what they want to enable the team to be successful.
They also have great depth, don't they? They had 5 debutants. There was no Kohli, no Shami, no Pant.
Yeah, I mean, this was by far not their strongest team, and still they won by a 4-1 margin. So it tells you of the depth of quality that exists within the Indian cricket system at this moment in time. There's a lot of young talent who seems to be able to step up to that level of perform straight away. If you look at the performances of Bazball and others, quite outstanding. So, India cricket's in a very good space right now.
I've written down 5 reasons why England lost the series. The first one I've got down is their first innings scores. Our first innings scores were 218, 253, 319, 353 and 218. Surely we've got to get more runs in the first innings.
Yes, you do, but it's not easy. You're playing against a top-rate team, so it's quite easy for somebody on the outside to say, listen, England should score more runs. But yes, how do you score more runs? In the 5-test series, India took 100 wickets. So that tells you that, the bowling attack isn't bad. Yes, England would have liked to have got more runs, but I think this was a case that they were outclassed by a better team.
Do the England batsmen sometimes not value their wicket enough? I've heard a former colleague of yours, Mark Ramprakash, say that.
Well, I'm not sure about whether they value their wicket. When you play, obviously, against India in India, it is pretty tough mentally because, you have to decide just exactly how you're going to play it because, against India, you can't just occupy the crease and don't score because if you do, when you do lose wickets, you're still in that same position. At the same time, you can't go gung-ho and, because on your day, you could get away with it, but 9 out of 10 times, you're going to fall flat on your face and get bowled up quite cheaply. So there's a confusing element. What you do need and what England don't have at the moment is the level of skill in the batsmen. They've got capable batsmen, but not enough with that level of skill to, withstand long periods of pressure in India and come out on the other end. So a Root is capable of doing that. He's done it over and over again. Ben Stokes didn't have the greatest tour with the bat, but capable of doing that. When you look at the rest of the players, they make runs, but you would not say that against India that you would be expecting them to score, 3 scores out of 10, right? Because, the very best players in the world, and I'm saying, so the likes of the Kohlis, the Williamsons, the Barbara Azams, the Steve Smiths, those guys. Now, the very best players in the world only gets 4 scores out of 10, out of every 10 innings. They get 4 scores. And those are the very best. Now, England and most of the other teams right now have players who can get 1 or 2 scores, right? Which is, that puts you at the mid-range. So unless you can get the type of skilled players who can get you 3 to 4, I would say even 3, because 4 then puts you at that top level. So Joe Root is at that top level. He's one of the 4. We can get 4 scores in 10, right? But if you can get players who can 2 to 3 scores in a series, not just in India, in any series, in any 10-match series, if you can get them performing at that level, more often than not, you're going to be doing well. Unfortunately, right now, as I said, Crawley will get you a couple of scores. He had a good tour here. Didn't get big runs, but he was consistent, and you would have liked him to have gone on. Joe Root didn't play to his best. Pope got one score. Duckett got a score. So the players were capable of getting that, but don't have the quality at this moment to be getting the 3 or the 4 innings.
This is moving on to this English middle order. Johnny Bairstow got 7 scores between 25 and 39. They're all cameos, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, again, capable Johnny. Overseas is capable of getting scores. But, any player can have a bad series, as like Ben Stokes had a bad series with the bat as well. So, that is expected. That can happen in any series. He would be very disappointed with his level of performance. And as you said, he got the starts, but, didn't trust his game long enough to play the long game. So quite often, some indiscretion would come and he would get out. So, he would be disappointed with his overall performance, knowing that he got starts, but wasn't able to trust his game to get England over the line.
What do you think to Joe Root? Because a lot of talk over here when he was trying to play the Bazball way, then should he just be playing the way he plays?
Well, Joe Root has become a world great based on the way he plays his game. I don't think the last 2 series or so has made Joe Root the player he is. Joe Root's, his foundation has been built on, he's got a good technique, got a good patience, good understanding of his game, good understanding of the situation. And, he's prepared to be in the fight for a long time, for the long haul. That's where his success has come over the years. I don't really believe that he should be changing to what the media and others term as the Bazball way of playing cricket. I mean, I think first and foremost, you need to be a batsman with the technique, with the patience, etc., etc. Joe Root has got all of that, and should play his game. Whether he's trying or has been told to play a different game, I don't know. But I really believe that he should do what he knows best and what has been successful for him.
Well, he came good in the last 2 matches with a century and an 84.
Yeah, look, very much the Joe Root that you come to appreciate. He's also had success in India before, so he knows he can score runs in India. And some of the dismissals early on was not Joe Root like, but in those last 2 games, you saw a reversal of, he retreated to what he knows best, how he can play, and he got the results.
And although England lost 4-1, in the 4th test, when India were 177 for 7, they looked like a deficit of over 100. England were in a very strong position to go 2-2.
Yes, they were, but, cricket is that sort of game. I mean, you can have a team down and, you must expect that it is possible that a recovery can come late in the order. I mean, we see it over and over again. New Zealand similarly had Australia on their knees. Josh Hazlewood, with Cameron Green put on over 100 for the last wicket. Change a deficit, into a situation where Australia had a lead. So, these things happen in cricket. And then in the next test, again, New Zealand about to win the test, and Carey gets 90 odd, supported by Cummins, and they get over the line by a few wickets. So these things do happen in the game of cricket.
England did have a remarkable win in the first test at Hyderabad. They were 190 runs behind on first innings.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, you got Pope played a terrific innings. Even with that game that England won, persons who understand the game of cricket would realise that it wouldn't be like that right throughout the series, that you would expect a proud nation like India playing at home, you would expect that they would come fighting back in the series. But it was a great start for England, and it really set the tone. And then in many ways, it really woke up the Giants, really. And it was difficult for England after that.
You've mentioned it earlier, the quality of the Indian bowling attack. They seem to have all bases covered.
Yeah, I mean, they've got, if it comes to fast bowling, they've got Bumrah, they've got Siraj, two fine seam bowlers. The spin department really is their key department. You've got Kuldeep, underestimated Jadeja, and the off spinner as well. So you've got three of the best slow bowlers in the world cricket right now. So that's always going to be difficult because if all three don't bowl well at the same time, one or two will, and someone like Ashwin with his record in India, at some point in the series, he's going to get 10 wickets in a game. So they've got all bases covered in terms of fast and spin, and that's what makes them quite a difficult team to beat at home.
Bumrah was outstanding.
Yeah, I mean he's come back from injury, slow start to get back, but you saw that he was still able to bowl at the level that he had before he was injured. So if you think also the players who were missing from the side, you've got Shami and others, very formidable bowling lineup.
How often have you in your career faced a left arm wrist spinner?
I'd have to scratch my head. I can't.
They're rare, aren't they?
They're rare. I think probably the only one I probably would have faced would have been Inshan Ali, I guess from Trinidad, who did play for the West Indies as well. He probably was the last one that I certainly would have played against. They are rarity. You don't see too many of them in international cricket. But when you've got Ashwin bowling at one end, who's not going to give anything away, it allows someone like Kuldeep, who has a little bit of mystery, to settle into his game and then have an impact on the innings.
Another player who had a major influence on the series was Jaswal, the Indian opener, who made his Test debut against the West Indies.
Yeah, he did. He capped it also with 100. I mean, he was pretty good here as well. So, what you saw there really was what was expected. I mean, he currently just comes, plays with no fear. He backs himself. He seems to have a good head on his shoulder. Puts the bowlers under pressure. I mean, he can absorb the pressure when needs to. He can also change the style. He can go from defense into attack quite quickly. Something that England didn't find it easy in this series. I think England's batting found it difficult. They had difficulty in moving between the styles of attack and defense. That was one of their major downfalls. Jaswal seemed to have that covered quite nicely, where he can move between the two. He knows when to pull back, when to go hard, and very difficult guy to bowl at. And add to that, England's lack of experience in their bowling lineup would have also, contributed to the situation as well.
On that subject, how impressed were you by the England spinners Tom Hartley and Shoaib Bashir?
I thought both of them did very well. And when you think that they're complete rookies playing against a formidable opponent and guys who are adept at playing spin bowling as well, I think both of them could leave that tour with their heads held high and look forward to the future. But within that series, it also their inexperience also showed. Hence, there were a few games when they conceded, a lot of runs. Now, Nathan Lyon in that situation, would not have been as expensive. But you would expect that from a Nathan Lyon who has, so many Test wickets. He's played so many games. very, very experienced. So that was the difference really between the spinners and someone like Nathan Lyon. But yeah, they did well. I think they've got to come back now and really learn the game. Certainly at county level, and can't just difficult learn at test level. If you're learning the game at the international stage, that is so difficult. So credit to them. I think they did as well as could be expected.
Yeah, Tom Hartley had only played 20 first-class matches before the tour, and Shoaib Bashir only 6 first-class matches. So very limited experience at the top level.
Yeah, I mean that experience to be bowling like Rohit Sharma and Bazball and players like that, that is not a lot of experience. People might want to say, well, what does experience mean? Experience counts, trust me, because with the experience you sense when a batter is going to go after you, you know what you have to do to pull it back, etc., etc. That's where the experience comes in. It's not just the number of games that you've played. It's also the number of situations that you have encountered, and also how you have addressed those situations. That will come in future for them. They will then have the experience on shore. In 5 years' time, if they play in India again, if they're still around, that they will be able to learn from this one experience and be better players.
Coming later in the show, Roland answers questions from listeners about the series, along with his forthright thoughts on the future of Bazball. By the way, you can now catch all episodes of the Paddock and the Pavilion in audio format on our YouTube channel. Why not check out our archive of over 250 episodes? Now let's get back to Roland as he talks about the England wicket-keeping position. What are your thoughts on the England wicket-keeping position? Ben Foakes kept well, but runs-wise scored 205 runs.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Obviously Ben Foakes is the preferred keeper in terms of his wicket-keeping. I guess England would have to decide in terms of balance for the team whether having the best wicket-keeper is best for the balance of the team. A Johnny Bairstow keeping wicket then opens up another opportunity for an out-and-out batter. You will lose, obviously, something on the keeping front because Foakes is a much more accomplished wicket-keeper. So, he'll probably take chances that Johnny wouldn't take. Be less buys and et cetera, et cetera. You're going to have to weigh that up against the runs that you want to score. But a lot of it will come down to, what you feel about your team in terms of whether they can put those runs on the board. This particular series might have been better to have had Johnny as wicketkeeper. It would have been tough on Foakes because leading up to that, he'd done well and he deserved the opportunity. But at the same time, you've got to play the game as it is. Would it have served England better to have had Bairstow behind the stumps and play another batsman? Who knows? But it certainly would have been something that they would have thought about.
One man who broke a record in the final test, the 5th test, was Jimmy Anderson, who took his 700th test wicket. How high do you rate that achievement as a medium fast bowler?
Well, it's the first time it's ever been done by a fast bowler, so that is a phenomenal number of wickets for any bowler, whether you're slow or fast, but even more so for a fast bowler. It proves that Jimmy Anderson has got longevity. He's got fitness. His skills haven't been questioned over the years in terms of what he can do with the ball. His control. I think what you would question now really is, certainly in subcontinent conditions, is his penetration. He can still bowl tight, but he's not as penetrative as he was in earlier years. And you would expect that because, he's over 40. He's not 21 anymore. But the achievement, first class. All credit to him. 700 Test wickets is a fantastic, fantastic performance.
I've got just a few questions before we talk about the future of Bazball. The first one is, you might have already covered this, but what were the positives for England? This is from Matthew Vale, the vice chairman of my own club, Marchtown Cricket Club.
The positives, I think what England can take out of this series is the fact that, number one, the recognition that, an acceptance that you were beaten by a better team. I mean, that can be a positive because that puts your planning on a different line and a different process. If you acknowledge that you were beaten by a better team, now you can start planning as to how you want to narrow that gap. So that is a plus. In terms of performance, I think, people were saying that Zach Crawley wouldn't be able to do this and do that in India. What he did in terms of the way he played and his results was a plus for England. Duckett, even though he didn't get, he showed he got 100 as well, so that's a plus. Pope's double 100 plus. The two spinners a plus. But I think generally the pace bowling was pretty ineffective. So I think England would be quite disappointed in that area that India's pace bowling was still able to be penetrative and still impose pressure and get wickets, where the English fast bowling was, what can I say, didn't create a lot of problems at all really for the English batsmen, which meant that they had to overbowl two inexperienced spinners for long periods because the fast bowling really lacked penetration.
Next question actually covers spin bowling from a David Fountain. He said, do you think Joe Root's bowling affected his batting?
Not at all. I mean, I think, Joe Root probably should have bowled more. I don't think it would have affected his batting. I think Joe Root's batting would have been affected, I guess, by the pressure applied by India and perhaps his own mindset going into the series. But I don't think the bowling affected him. I think in many ways the bowling would complement his batting because he also gets to see how the batters play his off spin. I mean, as you know, in Indian conditions, he's always bowled pretty well. So that was a plus sign, not a minus.
This next one is from Lena Aziz, Asia's first female cricket commentator.
I know Lena well, and yes, she's obviously, as you said, very, very involved with the game. And what was her question?
Well, her question was, it's more about the fact that it's a long tour. Why were England so outclassed in the fifth test?
Well, I would say by that time, Lena, I think England were ready for home after the fourth test. I think the fifth test really just had to be played because there were 5 tests in the series. I think mentally, they would not have been up for that test match at all. After the fourth test, series gone, momentum very much in India's favour. I think the English players would have been looking to be home. Even psychologically, they would want to give a good performance in the fifth test, but something would have been missing. There are times where you really realize that you're not going to get over the line here. You're going to work hard, you're going to try, you're going to give it your best. But, the way things are going, it's not going to happen. And I think they would have been at that mindset where the fifth test really was just to finish the tour. That was all.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
And that is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Thanks for answering those questions. Now going to move on to the future of Bazball. We've now had 23 tests of the McCullum Stokes era, and Brendan McCullum talked after the series about a refinement in Bazball. Is that what is needed now?
Well, I mean, listen, cricket has never changed over 100 years, Stephen. It's still the same. It's still the same thought processes go into batting and bowling, right? Where England fell down on this is the difficulty in moving between the styles of attack and defense, right? That's what they've got to address. Now, there are certain teams that you can maintain an attacking style against all the time, right? There are other teams where you can't, where you have got the balance between attack and defense. Now, the whole idea that you can just go out there and bash, you can do that against Ireland and against, maybe Afghanistan and others. But, I mean, do you really believe that approach will work consistently against Australia, who has 4 world-class bowlers who, if you pick the top 8 bowlers in the world, all 4 would be in there in Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, and Lyon. Now, against them, you've got to move skillfully between the styles, because there are going to be periods where they're going to be on top and you're going to have to hang in there. You're going to have to be able to recognize when there's a shift, and you can take advantage of that and put some pressure back on them. I think that's England's biggest question now, really, is working out those difficulties that they had in India in moving between those two styles. It can't just be give it a go and see what happens. I mean, that is, it's like throwing a coin in the air and hoping it comes down on heads.
So it's too simplistic to just play, to say that's the way we play, which quite often the players and management are saying.
That's a cop-out. I mean, that's the way we play. I mean, what does that mean? The way we play, that means nothing. As I said, you can do it against certain people, but Hazelwood, Stark, Cummins, Lyon didn't become the best by doing nothing. They became the best by doing well at what they do. So that has to be recognized. I'm not saying that you have to believe that you cannot score against them, but you have to recognize within a game when they are on top. And, you can't just decide, well, they're on top and I'm just going to throw the bat. You can. It will come off now and again, but a little bit more thought needs to go in there.
But England are picking players that, in theory, suit the way that Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes want them to play. Ben Stokes has said that he wouldn't pick an Alistair Cook in an England team, as an example.
Well, I mean, he will lose more games. He will lose more games without Alistair Cook than he would think. I mean, he would probably temper it to say that without Alistair Cook, he'll win more games. That may be true, but the teams are becoming much more wiser in terms of England's approach to the game. So they're going to come with different plans. I mean, we saw that last summer. Australia became very defensive early on. Frustrated England, put men on the cover boundary at the start of the innings and things like that. And those booming drives that were going for 4 or singles. So lots of that's going to happen. The teams are going to take more notice of the way they play. And because teams like Australia and India have got such good attacks, right, they can take that defensive approach. But when the door opens and they get the opportunity, they've got the skill in the players to then close that door, right? That's the difference of playing against those teams. But what I'm saying is they're recognizing that we're not going to be, we've got fantastic bowlers, but if England are going to go hard to start with, we're going to relax the field, frustrates them to a single. But when we get a wicket, pressure's on. I don't believe in, okay, we didn't go hard enough. Well, that sounds like bravado to me. But, England have to recognize, right, as a cricket team, that there is a new power in the world game. England is not the new power in the world game. West Indies, they're not the new power in the world game. They have to recognize that that is the main thing. What you did before or whatever, it makes no difference, right? India are the new power in everything, whether it's finance, style of play, etc. That's the first thing you have to recognize. These are the people now that we have to knock off the top. It's not us anymore. I think England is still believing that they are the side, right? That's the first thing. We're the side, so we will do what we want to do and we play how we want to do. No. Recognize at the moment somebody else is in power. How do I knock them off their perch?
Well, thank you very much for those thoughts. At least when before McCullum and Stokes, we'd won 1 test out of 17, so things have improved, and it's certainly been exciting. But clearly, they've got to refine their game to match Australia and India, where they've lost 7 of the last 12 tests. England.
Well, I mean, because you're not playing against the bottom 4 in world cricket. You're playing against the top few. And there's a reason why those teams are at the top. It's not luck. A coin wasn't flipped and they were at the top. They're at the top because they have got excellent players, batters, bowlers, fielders, good mental players, understanding of their team, understanding of their own game, understanding of the opposition, etc. That's the reason why they got to the top. Now, you must respect that. England need to take a look in the mirror. That's the first thing. Look at the mirror and see what they see. And it's fantastic when it comes off. I have no difficulty in players being aggressive, but I don't believe that you can be aggressive all the time. There must be a period within the innings whereby there is a recognition that the opposition bowlers are on top. I have to weather the storm to get back to what I want to do of imposing myself on the game. Now, if you're back in the pavilion, you cannot expect Jimmy Anderson and 9, 10, and 11 then to impose themselves on the game. You're out of the game.
Well, changing away just briefly from England and India, a great all-rounder, Mike Proctor, passed away on the 17th of February. How good an all-rounder was he, and what was he like to face, Roland?
Yeah, I mean, Mike Proctor, God rest his soul, was not only a great cricketer, he was a very nice man as well, but real competitor. He really single-handedly back in the 70s, lifted Gloucestershire from being very much a minor county, and I don't mean minor in terms of like Hertfordshire or Norfolk. I'm talking about minor in terms of county cricket standards, and he really lifted that club to believe that they could beat the best and the elite, and he did that with his performances both with bat and ball. So a real colossal of a cricketer, and really he left that legacy in the West Country. I mean, he was dearly loved in the West Country because of his wholehearted performances and effort to the cause. He could easily have, as an overseas player, he could have easily cruised along and put in one or two performances now and again, and no, but he kept pushing the bar all the time to the limits, and was a great servant for the sport. Sorely missed, not just by his family, but I think the cricketing fraternity around the world who saw him and knew him would miss exactly what he stood for. And, may he rest in peace.
Yeah, some amazing figures, 21,000 first-class runs and 1,417 wickets at 19. What was he like to face, bowling off that wrong foot of his?
Yeah, he was, one of the difficult guys to face because, his bowling action was not the classic, side-on action. He had the windmill action, so, his hand would appear from funny positions. So that makes it quite difficult to be able to, to pick the ball up. With batting, you obviously want to be able to pick the ball up as early as possible. The guys with good, clean actions are the ones that you're able to pick the ball up quickly. But the likes of Mike Proctor, Sylvester Clarke, Colin Croft, those type of bowlers, you pick the ball up a bit later. And as you know, there's not much space between you and the bowler. So if you're seeing the ball a little bit later, it means that your decision-making is also going to be a little bit later. So that was the beauty of somebody like Mike Proctor, in that because of his unorthodox action, he would get the batters to make late decisions. And that was a skill that he perfected by having that type of action.
Well, thank you for those thoughts on the great Mike Proctor. Turning to England's summer ahead, I've heard various people say that England are going to win 6-0 against West Indies and Sri Lanka. Isn't that being a bit deriding, really, the opposition? I know we're going to speak again about the West Indies in a future podcast.
Well, I don't know. Whoever said that is... that's a very arrogant statement, to believe that you have just lost a series against India by a huge margin and suddenly you're going to win 6-0. I don't think cricket plays like that. You've got to get your game back together, and you've got to respect the opposition. The opposition are going to come and make it tough for you. So England are going to have to play well to win those series. It's not going to be a walk in the park, and I don't think anybody within the England hierarchy would be expecting it to be a walk in the park. I think that comment probably came from someone who I don't quite understand, who probably doesn't understand really what professional sport's about.
Do you think there'll be some changes in the England 11?
I think what England have got to do is to certainly get their, the fast bowling attack right. who's going to be, their best four seamers. That's really the key part in this thing. We've got to get those four fast bowlers right. I don't feel that they will play two spinners in those series. So the question is going to be which one of those spinners will play. Do they go with the off spinner? You've got Joe Root there as well, so you end up with two off spinners. That means you have no one taking the ball away from the bat, right-handed batters. Or do they go with the left armer and Joe Root as the other spinner, so that you've got one taking the ball away and one bringing the ball back? So they'll have to make that decision there. But I think the fast bowling department is the main concern. Who are going to be our best four fast bowlers going into any of those series?
Do you think it'll be the last summer for Jimmy Anderson, or could he even still go to the Ashes?
I wouldn't take Jimmy Anderson to the Ashes. I think Jimmy Anderson could still be a very fine bowler in England, where conditions will favour him. Don't have to be as quick as he was. I think his pace in Australia is just not quick enough to worry an Australian batting lineup that they have. I think it would be a luxury to take him. One that's not going to work out well for England in Australia. I think you've got to identify your four fast bowlers this year, give them a good summer of Test cricket with a view to taking them down under to play against Australia, who are going to be very, very strong. So it may be that Jimmy Anderson don't play all of these Test matches here in England this summer.
Yes, could be got Gus Atkinson, Matthew Potts, Josh Tongue. There's Chris Wokes, who was man of the series last summer. Mark Wood, Ollie Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, there's worries in there. I don't think at this moment in time they really know who's the best four. So that's something they have to find out.
Hopefully Ben Stokes will be back bowling, though. He did bowl in the last Test.
Yeah, but the future of Ben Stokes bowling many overs is I can't see that really happening. I would imagine that England are praying and hoping that Joe Archer can be back in the park by Ashes series. I think that's what they would be hoping for, that they can have him back and firing. They will need that sort of pace. I mean, if he was back and bowling fast with Mark Wood, now that gives you a bit of a cutting edge. You can then have the skilled bowlers after that, the Tong, the Potts, etc., to complement those two. But if Mark Wood is exposed on his own, he can't bowl 8 overs in a spell. So right now the emphasis, I think, will be on trying to get Joe Archer or find out exactly where he's at this summer.
Well, let's hope he's back fit. And it's a good note to end our chat about the England-India series, where earlier back in November we didn't give a prediction. So there's you got a cop out there. So but you did tip the West Indies to win the T20 World Cup, which starts on the 1st of June. But are you standing by that selection?
Well, I think they've got a good shot. I think certain things have happened now where I believe they're going to have to bring their A game if they're going to have a chance. I would still say the likes of Australia and India would be the favourites to lift that cup. West Indies have got a puncher's chance. They've got the players individually, who can do it and win the trophies. My only concern is the preparation for that World Cup. And when I say preparation, a tournament of this significance requires that you have a long and thorough preparation whereby the players are together as a group, not just training, etc., but, they're bonding as a group and all the things that go with it. I am a little bit worried that that's not going to happen with the West Indies, because you've got probably 10 or so players playing in the IPL, but of those 10, I would say probably only 2 or 3 that will play regularly in the IPL. The others will play the odd game, which means that when they come back at the end of the IPL, which is usually just a week or so before the World Cup, that a lot of those guys will come back short of match practice. No time for a team to really prepare and bond. And they will need a lot of luck to maintain a standard right throughout the tournament. They will hit some very highs where they are dominant and look the part, but I think because of that lack of preparation, it could hurt them sometime in the tournament. That is my worry. But if you look at the individual players, if they had the full preparation, Australia had the full preparation, India had the full preparation, I would give them as much chance as any of those of winning the tournament. But I'm worried about the lack of preparation leading into this tournament, which brings into focus really Australia is not going to come here not prepared. Their IPL players are going to be back at least a month before the tournament to prepare for the tournament. India, while the IPL is going on, I'm sure they'll be taking their players together as a group, I'm sure, during the IPL, when I'm sure the fixtures will be done in such a way where their players, the individual players, can be brought together as a group, even within the IPL, to prepare for the World Cup. West Indies and others will not be so fortunate. I see England, a lot of their players have pulled out, so that makes it easier for them to prepare. But again, West Indies, I think will be suffering as a result of that.
England have got a 4-match series against Pakistan in May, a T20 series. And we'll find out whether your prediction is right in a podcast, which I'm sure we'll do to look back at the 2024 Men's T20 World Cup. But for now, Roland, thank you very much for being back on the show.
Stephen, as you know, always a pleasure. I really look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. And hopefully, when I come, you will have some sunshine for me. And we look forward to the start of the county season.
I can't promise on the sunshine. No rain will be a help.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.